So thank you everybody so much for joining. This is ICA Fund Impact Stories. My name is Erica Dixon. I'm the Director of Marketing here at ICA. Today, is really all about talking about the Bay Area small business ecosystem. We have a really great conversation planned for you, and this is really marking the launch of ICA Fund's 2024 Impact Report. So we're going to do a run through of our impact report to start, then we'll jump into a conversation, and then we'll have some time for audience Q&A. So feel free to drop things in the chat at any time. I'll be kind of keeping track there. And then we can, bring the questions forward in the chat right at the end. So we are joined today, of course, by Allison Kelly, the CEO of ICA Fund. She'll be walking us through our impact report. We're also joined by Collette Hanna. She's the ED of the Alliance for Community Development, and Rohan Kalbag, the CEO of Main Street Launch. So thanks everybody for being here, and thanks for everybody for dropping your names in the chat. Feel free to keep the comments going. We love to see it because we can't see you, but we'd love to hear from you. So I will pass it to Allison to jump into the impact report.
Thanks, Erica. Welcome, everybody. We're so thrilled to have you here joining us and supporting our work. We are thrilled to share a little glimpse of our 2024 Impact Report. We're going to go through this somewhat briefly, give you an overview, but we do encourage you to read the full report. There's a link here on the screen, and we'll follow up today's conversation with a link to the full report as well, because we have a lot more data, more detail, and a lot more founder stories, which are fun to go through. But for now, let's dive in. And let's begin at the beginning. Why do we do this work? You all support ICA in our work, so you know how important small businesses are and that they are what make our communities vibrant and connected places to live. Featured here is Ezekwe Anderson. He's the founder of Rise Up Bakery. He's one of our many founders in our ICA Fund portfolio. And Rise Up Bakery makes incredible bread in the South of Market neighborhood in San Francisco. You've probably seen Ezekwe at a farmer's market, but you've seen their bread in a lot of our local Bay Area grocery stores. And it's founders like him that really drive economic power for all of us. As we know, small businesses employ nearly half of all of Americans and actually represent about half of US GDP. Small businesses also tend to be more resilient and resourceful than large companies. And it's these qualities that make them indispensable in a rapidly evolving geopolitical context and what made them survive the pandemic just a short while ago. But too often, investors overlook these kinds of companies and overlook these markets. And they're overlooked, especially from historically underrepresented demographics and geographies. And this is keeping us all from benefiting from the critical financial and social returns that these entrepreneurs can provide us. In an increasingly polarized political economy, small businesses are really something that we can all agree on and prioritize together. And these are some of the very many reasons why I'm so excited about our work with small businesses and to see what they can accomplish with our founders in our ecosystem and with our partners here today. Together, we really are backing these small entrepreneurs, and it's an incredible way to deliver for all of us a double bottom line. And we believe this really is the future of investing. But we know this is a difficult time for small businesses. I mean, there's no way around it. Business owners are navigating rising costs, proposed tariffs, tightening capital markets, and just general instability. And it's organizations like ICA and our ecosystem providers that are acting as real partners to these businesses. We're acting as delivering real-time advising on relevant issues. We're providing ongoing coaching. And perhaps most critically, as Collette was saying right before this call, where you all joined us, a community of fellow founders, just that community to understand what's going on and have somebody to navigate this with, who understands what you're doing and how it's impacting you. So this is a picture that you're looking at from one of our workshop days from last year. We gathered 50 founders for a 12-week cohort to help these founders learn growth strategy, capital readiness, and investment preparation. And once founders graduate from our accelerator, they join our community, which is a place to find founder-focused events, ongoing learning, and at your fingertips, readily available 24/7 connection through our virtual platform. And our support model, this support model, is really the difference maker for entrepreneurs who fall outside of mainstream funding pathways. And they can get left behind, especially in an unstable and volatile economic climate. And of course, core to the support of what ICA offers is capital. And access to capital, as we all know, really is the key to growing a business and creating community wealth. ICA has grown our investment practice significantly in the last 5 years. We went from having 6 companies in our portfolio to having 65 in our portfolio today. We've invested over $15 million to date, and we've learned a lot. Through this growth, we have really brought into focus 2 key company archetypes. One is a national scale business that's on a high growth trajectory, and their business typically requires fewer employees to grow their business. The other archetype is a community anchor. It's a place-based, impact-driven business whose growth depends on creating more jobs. We've also expanded our capital products to include offerings like redeemable equity and working capital loans. And this is an effort to really meet the evolving needs of the companies that we support and really complete that continuum of capital in flexible and innovative ways. And those kinds of products, of course, go alongside our impact equity capital. So this picture is of Courtney Smith. He's the founder of Court Smith, one of our early investment companies. Court Smith designs athletic apparel with his team in East Oakland and has accessed many of ICA's capital offerings to grow his business, and started with our rapid response liquidity loan during the pandemic. Most recently, we invested in him again with an acquisition loan in partnership with the Real People's Fund to acquire another business. This is just a truly game changer opportunity for Court and Court Smith, his business. So let's meet some more of our founders. This is James Norman. He's the founder of Pilotly. Pilotly is a tech-enabled media insights firm working with Netflix, Amazon, Audible, and other big streaming content companies. This is a great example of our national scale venture type of company. This business has been consistently profitable with solid growth projections, yet James struggled to get capital, investment capital. ICA was the first to invest in his business. And since our investment, he's unlocked his first full round of funding. He's seen a 50% growth in his revenue, and he's driven business expansion using AI tools. James has said that ICA was the first to believe in his company, and we are so glad that we did. This is another ICA portfolio company. This is Victor Diaz. Victor started Renegade Running in 2020. You might know it if you're an Oakland local. They have a beautiful running store on Grand, just off of Broadway. Renegade is a running gear shop and a popular running club, both focused on creating spaces for diverse runners. Victor graduated from our accelerator in 2022 and then quickly leveraged that experience to raise capital, not just from ICA, but also from REI's Path Ahead Ventures. He used that capital to then expand into the LA market with a new store in West Hollywood last year, which is what you're seeing here, was an opening photo of that store. Also, interestingly, with the fires that happened in LA earlier this year, he actually opened his closed store to the public, so people had a smoke-free place to run on the treadmills inside his company. And Victor credits ICA with helping him refine his vision and access the resources needed to expand his company. And we were so happy to be a part of his journey. So let me end with this slide, sharing some of our key data points from the report, but I know you're going to go read the report, so I'm not going to read them here. Pictured here are sisters Bianca Ashalu and Veronica Macy. They're founders of Nirvana Soul, a fast-growing, super creative coffee chain based in San Jose. Nirvana Soul participated in our accelerator in 2023, and in early 2024, we made an investment in them to help their cafe continue to expand. And since founding, the sisters have valued creating an environment for workers to thrive with benefits and fair wages. This is just their own business ethos. And so that's the kind of entrepreneur that we're getting behind. It's folks who already have this internal motivation to create these really good jobs that are sustainable for their employees. Since ICA's investment in Nirvana Soul, they've expanded to 2 new locations in San Jose and San Francisco. And of course, they're creating jobs along the way. And we have really loved supporting their business and watching them grow and influence more coffee goers. So thank you all for listening. Of course, you're going to read the full report, but what I really wanted to do is use this time with our amazing ecosystem partners and have an expanded conversation with them so we can share how we all work together. So with that, let me thank again Collette Hanna, the Executive Director of Alliance for Community Development, and Rohan Kalbag, the CEO of Main Street Launch, for joining us today. It's really wonderful to have you here. And I would be remiss, don't forget to unmute you too. If I didn't say that we're thrilled that Collette has also recently joined our advisory board at ICA Fund. And so when we say that we work together with our ecosystem partners, we really mean it.
Yes.
We love it.
Yes. Happy to.
So Collette, why don't you start off and share a little bit about your work at Alliance?
Sure, happy to. So, good morning, everyone. Collette Hanna, Executive Director with Alliance for Community Development, and definitely glad to be here and be a part of this conversation. So, Alliance works with small businesses and entrepreneurs in all stages, but we do focus largely on early stage, even pre-revenue businesses, and primarily, as Allison mentioned, those from under-resourced, underrepresented, or marginalized communities, largely Black and Brown, and women entrepreneurs. And so our work is focused on primarily 3 pillars. One is the ecosystem support. It's critically important that entrepreneurs have that fallback, have the network, have the social capital that is needed to help them thrive in their business. But then also the navigation is our second pillar. And that is both navigation of that ecosystem as well as the one-on-one technical assistance and coaching. And then our third pillar is neighborhood building. So while we're doing that work, we're also focused on how we can advance and build up and support that on a neighborhood by neighborhood, district by district, community basis. So yeah, that's pretty much the core of our work. I'm based in Jack London. And so if you hear a train, that's a byproduct of our office location. But yeah, that's our work here at Alliance. And again, glad to be here.
Thank you, Collette. And Rohan, can you tell us a little bit about Main Street Launch?
Absolutely. Thank you, Allison, for the opportunity, and ICA for the opportunity. And I did want to point out kind of one thing. I'm relatively new to this space after a 20+ year career in commercial banking. And I've really benefited from the ecosystem in helping me kind of in that transition into working at a CDFI. And so Allison and Collette and others have been particularly helpful in helping me understand the environment and the ecosystem and how we collectively work together to bring successful outcomes or increase the likelihood of successful outcomes for small businesses in our communities. So Main Street Launch, we're predominantly a capital provider, debt capital provider, and we have generally 2 parts of our lending products. One is we are a delegated authority lender under the SBA's Community Advantage product, which enables us to lend up to $350,000 10-year term loans. So we find that to be particularly attractive to a lot of businesses in the Bay Area, given the cost of expansion, the cost of establishing a business, and we finance a lot of kind of build out of spaces, tenant improvements, acquisition of equipment, and the like. A lot of kind of ground floor retail and restaurants that really require foot traffic and also bring vibrancy to our communities as well. The other area is we work with municipal governments, predominantly Oakland and San Francisco, and in the past, the city of Mountain View, to develop concessionary micro lending programs that target a specific community outcome that they're trying to drive. An example of that right now is we have a fund that we've recently launched where we're financing small businesses that are moving into the vacant storefronts in downtown San Francisco. So if there's anybody on this call that has a business that's looking at expanding into downtown San Francisco or knows of somebody, please follow up with me, because we've got a pretty compelling product to support them. And then the final part that we do is a lot of kind of capital access workshops and technical assistance of really guiding businesses through what the various options are for capital, and helping those businesses get loan ready, and also actually working through what does it actually mean to get a loan, to service a loan, and the like, which frankly, I think over the last 18 months to 24 months there's been increased level of kind of need to be doing that, given during the pandemic there was a lot of grant funding, which has obviously kind of dried up. So businesses now transitioning away from that grant funding to more traditional debt or equity. We're finding a lot of need for those workshops.
That's great. Thank you so much, Rohan. That's a great overview of Main Street Launch. Now, one of the reason why the two of you are on this call in particular is because we have a lot of overlap. There's a lot of synergies in which each of our organizations do, and small businesses kind of need all of it, right? So Collette, why don't you share some stories of entrepreneurs that we have shared together between Alliance and ICA Fund, and what that journey has looked like?
Yeah, definitely. That's so true, Allison, and happy to share about a few of the businesses that we work with and that speak to the partnership and the strength of the ecosystem. Amira Davis of Pillar is one business. They are based in Lafayette, and they are a co-working space that also provides on-site childcare. So I think it is a pretty innovative model of being able to provide both of those services as a working parent, to be able to have a place to go outside of the home, but also a safe place where you feel near your child or your children. And so she provides that service in her operation in Lafayette. We referred her to ICA in 2021, and she's a great example because she started in the lab track of the accelerator program and then later went through the accelerator as well, the full accelerator as well. So she obviously found a lot of value because she continued in the program. Another business that we actually didn't refer, but that we're working with currently is the Final Sauce. And we're working with Princess Sims of the Final Sauce. Great story, a lot of history in Oakland, a lot of legacy, honestly, to their work, and what they're doing now. And they also did the lab track of the accelerator in 2021. And as I mentioned, we didn't refer them, but we're working with them now. So it is interesting and great to see just that kind of ongoing partnership and that need for that ecosystem. We're working with them on some of their operational improvements that they're looking to do currently. financial forecasting. So they were able to benefit obviously from the ICA Accelerator program, and then the ongoing and continued support that they're continuing to get basically from us and from the entire ecosystem. Um, and then another great example is Brash, which is a whipped shea butter and skincare and wellness brand run by Zania St. Charles, who also started in the accelerator, or I'm sorry, in the lab track of the accelerator program in 2021, and is now actually working with Alliance as a part of our team. And so, based on her experience of being a small business owner, of being an entrepreneur, Black woman-owned business, is referring other businesses to ICA and specifically helping with the process. So helping with the application, helping prepare businesses to have their paperwork, whatever it is that they need to have in order to basically help them to have a successful transition and a successful entry into the accelerator program. So she's a great example. She just celebrated 6 years of her business. So definitely want to applaud that. But yeah, I think these just few examples speak to the need for a partnership and the strength in the reciprocal relationship. Referring businesses to ICA, referred back to us, depending on where the business is and the entrepreneur is in their entrepreneurial journey. And yeah, just the ongoing support that is needed, again, within that social capital and the ecosystem and that network that provides that. So yeah, those are just a few of the examples that I can think of.
I love that. And you use that word reciprocal relationship, and that idea of reciprocity is so important, right? And Zinnia is a great example, and our partnerships are a great example. And we try to track like the entrepreneur journey at ICA, and it's definitely not linear, nor is it really circular. It's almost like a crazy eight, like this infinity there needs, right? We have
Yeah.
to figure out a really great way of showing that, because they need different things at different times, and they can be givers and receivers. And it's great to be in partnership with you all who are on that reciprocity curve with us. So Rohan, you and Main Street Launch worked recently with Bread Belly. Tell us about that.
Yes, absolutely. So, Bread Belly is a bakery based in San Francisco, and they came to us from a referral from ICA because I believe they'd gone through your accelerator program and you had made an investment in them, and you worked with them for a number of years. And they were looking to expand to a new location in Pier 70, kind of over towards where Chase Center is, and they needed additional capital to build out that space. And so we were able to provide a $350,000 10-year term loan through the SBA program. And I will tell you, it was a relatively smooth process for, I think, all parties. And I think a big part of that was because the business had worked with ICA. And so we tend to find a lot of our work is with helping or finding resources for businesses to work through their business plan or the financials and their modeling and things like that. And they kind of came with a lot of that already built out and working, right, and being used by the business, probably most importantly. And I think a big part of that was because of the work with ICA. So it was a relatively quick and turnaround from identification of the need and the opportunity to actually, funding the loan. I believe we're fully funded now. I believe they're going to be opening within the next few weeks if they're not open already. So excited to maybe we can go and break bread at their location sometime soon.
And when you say relatively quickly, what does that mean?
I think end to end, it was within 90 days.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Great. That's great. So entrepreneurs out there, don't forget, that's quick from a lending perspective.
Yes.
You might need money today, but for lenders, 90 days is quick. Are there other stories you have like that? I mean, I think there are a couple other companies are now in our accelerator that came from Main Street
Yeah.
Launch referrals.
Yeah, so that was an example. Bread Belly was an example of a referral from ICA and working on something maybe it was a little bit was more expansion and kind of latter stage. With our micro lending programs and what I talked about a little bit before, there's a couple of businesses that we worked with. Interestingly, one has a Renegade connection too, because I got connected with them based on a run that I was doing around Lake Merritt with Renegade. But you know,
Wow.
yeah, so small world stories, right?
Yeah.
So Mighty Mallow Crispy Treats is a business based out, I think, kind of Walnut Creek area. It's actually a home-based business right now, predominantly home-based business, and they make amazing Rice Krispie bars with different flavors. These things are they're a little dangerous, right? Because you start eating them and you can't stop. Great idea that came from the founder was trying to figure out a treat that would entertain her kids on a long journey, right? I think that was the business concept or the business problem. So developed the product. We provided a loan for her to be able to open up a kiosk in San Jose Airport. So a great snack for on a plane if you're flying through San Jose. She's seen a lot of expansion. She was one of Oprah's favorite things of 2024, which is awesome, but comes with its challenges of how to meet the demand that happens. And so I think she's a perfect fit for the lab at ICA, and I know she's in the current cohort. So that's one example. The second example is Am the Label, which is a clothing concept that caters to people that aren't shaped like the models on the runway, right? So there's a big market for this offering. And Nehar is the person I met through the running community, and we provided some capital to her. She's based here in Oakland, and also she was working with ICA already. She was connected with you guys already, but it's great that she's joined the lab as well in this cohort. So we're excited to see the progress they go through. And I kind of view that at some point they might come back to us for additional capital, right? As they're given from the business expansion that they will develop through working with you guys.
Definitely. That is the hope, right? That's the end goal. And then if they get on a growth trajectory that makes sense and equity makes sense, then we'll be in that one together like we are with the others. And that's our panacea, right? So we've talked a lot about different ways companies intersect our different organizations. Collette, how does ACD kind of help companies navigate this ecosystem and understand what's right for them at what time?
Yeah, so we obviously provide the one-on-one support, the hands-on technical assistance, coaching, that kind of thing, like many business support organizations do. Um, but also what we glean from that are the needs, obviously, that entrepreneurs have in the process of working with them. So one aspect of the work that's really at the heart of what we do is an understanding that entrepreneurial ecosystem and the resources available to entrepreneurs. There's actually, I read a source that there's over 80 either partner organizations or financial institutions that provide some kind of support to entrepreneurs in the East Bay alone, which, as
Wow.
you can imagine, can be daunting and
Yeah.
difficult and challenging for an entrepreneur to navigate. It's where do I start? And so where we don't provide capital, we refer entrepreneurs to resources like Main Street Launch, like ICA, within the ecosystem where capital is provided. Where we don't provide workshops or classes or that type of thing, we refer out to the organizations that do. So our work is really rooted in knowing that ecosystem, knowing the resources, building the relationships with the partners so that we can help entrepreneurs navigate it. And we're doing that work in kind of a different way in the city of Antioch, where we're serving as the central point of contact for the city and their economic development team and a team of partners that they have established to support the entrepreneurs there in the city. And so what an entrepreneur will do is they'll contact us as basically their first point of contact. We'll find out what their needs are and refer them out to one of the partners established there in the city of Antioch. And so it definitely supports the city from an economic development standpoint in building their small businesses and supporting their small business community, the job creation associated with that. But it's a seamless way for entrepreneurs to get help and to get assistance. And it's actually been lifted up on a national level of a model that makes it, I won't say easy, but easier,
Mhm.
because nothing's easy about being an entrepreneur, but at least being able to navigate through one central point of contact to get to the resources that they need, and as well as building the camaraderie with each other.
Mhm.
And the programming that's in place to be able to help connect entrepreneurs with other entrepreneurs, either in their same industry or in other industries, is all a part of that ecosystem support. So that's one of the ways that we're doing this work in terms of um, building the ecosystem or supporting the ecosystem and helping entrepreneurs get access to it. And that is one that is done on a place-based level.
I love that. It's like a concierge, right? It's like this
Yeah.
crazy world of resource, and how do you navigate where you need to be when?
Exactly. How do you know where to start? And someone
Hmm.
that knows all the partners. And it's great because the partners are partnering together as
Yeah,
well to be able to provide those services to the entrepreneur. So it really centers the entrepreneur.
I love that. So, Rohan, you have an interesting background. You mentioned it a little bit at the start. You know, you came from corporate banking. You joined, from what I understand, you joined the board of Main Street Launch, and then now you're the CEO of Main Street Launch. So there must be something about this model that really speaks to you. And I wonder if you could kind of talk about why this work matters and what a culture of entrepreneurship can bring in improving our cities and communities.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, so yeah, I was a commercial lender for 20 odd years, and worked for one of the funders and partners of Main Street Launch, and so ended up on the board as a result of that. I was looking for this, and I'll kind of touch on that in a little bit. And then after being on the board for a couple of years, the opportunity came up with the prior CEO leaving, and so that's when I transitioned into the CEO role. And it's been a great kind of second act. Or maybe third act in my career, and really help being able to leverage the skills and experiences that I developed in commercial banking, but in a very different and frankly very challenging kind of environment.
Yeah.
So to me, what I've always loved about banking has been connecting with the business and understanding kind of the origin stories. And I predominantly worked with middle market companies in the past where they were all, founded at some generation, maybe recently, maybe many generations ago, and understanding what started, how did this business get started, and what's the various iterations it's morphed through over the years, and really needing to have a sit down and have a conversation with the CEO, with the owners, in order to understand the business and make a determination of whether we could lend to them. And what we do is that on overdrive, because um, a lot of these businesses haven't, they're working through their concept right now, right? Or they're kind of
Hmm.
figuring a lot of those things out. I tended to, be working before with companies that had figured all that stuff out and were a few years, if not decades, past that. So now it's like I'm now uh, vicariously like living the origin stories with many of these businesses, which really is incredibly kind of energizing. I think the other piece, just to point out, is I'm a child of immigrants to the UK, not to the States, but saw what my parents kind of went through of building kind of their careers, and they did not, they set me up in an incredibly kind of privileged place. So understand the importance for a lot of the the communities that are kind of under-resourced, right? Our work is looking to support. In terms of why this is important, I mean, it kind of goes back to some of the things, Allison, you were saying before. I mean, economic development, small businesses, account for, anywhere between 50% and 2/3 of the job creation, within the US. Small businesses are local, so the dollars that are spent with those small businesses generate, local tax revenues for our communities that get fed back into the social services and the parks and the roads and the school systems, etc. Right? And also the wealth stays here, right? Different to if it's kind of a big box or whatever, where it could go somewhere else. They tend to be the unique character of our communities. I will point out one of my favorite one right now, right, in Oakland is what's going on at Prescott Market, right? And I know I know the landlord there is somebody that you guys have worked with at ICA. The build out of that space there with the businesses in there has really brought a really nice touch and feel to kind of the community in West Oakland. So that unique character, importance around kind of local and place. Innovation, I think small businesses really are the drivers of innovation, and we all get very focused on tech companies and what they do and things like that, but kind of real kind of local innovation, local products, tackling a particular need. Again, Mighty Mallows and Amber Label are examples of that. And then social connectiveness and creating community spaces for us are really important. I think Renegade is a perfect example of that, right? It's a running store. Yes, there's a running club associated with it, but what they've done really around community has been frankly revolutionary in bringing people into running that didn't feel like they could access a club for it, in the past. So those are, to me, it really is, support of small businesses is one of the critical pillars of reinvesting and supporting the growth of our communities, local communities.
That was really powerfully said. Thank you for sharing that. And of course, we couldn't agree with you more. And we're in an environment, like you said, that really almost over prioritizes this fast growth and these scalable businesses, and it leapfrogs over all of this really rich, deep, sustainable business development here in place. And Collette, that place-based approach, that almost neighborhood level approach, is something that Alliance for Community Development does a really good job of. Can you talk a little bit about a neighborhood that you've worked with and how that's impacted it?
Sure. And if I could just kind of expound on Rohan was talking about as well, because
Yeah, sure.
just coming from an economic development background, working in different cities and county economic development, it really is the focus as economic development practitioners, obviously of their city and the neighborhoods within that city. But there's multiple priorities. There's Fortune 500 support. There's real estate issues. There's just multiple issues that, as an economic development practitioner within a city, that you're focused on. And so sometimes the small business, even though they are most definitely the highest generator of jobs, they don't always get the attention because they're, again, multiple priorities that economic development teams within cities are focused on. So it just makes the work that we're doing that much more important. I relied heavily working with different cities on organizations like ours to be able to provide the direct support that we knew that we just didn't have the capacity to do. Again, because of those multiple priorities, but knowing the importance of the small business community and, again, the culture that you talked about, Rohan, that those bring to the city, and having, again, these types of organizations like the work that we're doing, providing that direct support and that direct interaction is just critically important. So just wanted to expound on that and add on to that from just an economic development perspective. But yeah, a key component of the work that we are doing is that neighborhood focus. And obviously I love that coming from an economic development background. being able to take our work and focus it on different districts and neighborhoods throughout the Bay Area. And one of the benefits of that, of taking that place-based approach, is where you are able to find the needs specific to that community. Um,
Mhm.
there are likely similar needs across businesses within a particular neighborhood or district, where you can build the ecosystem and the resources to address that again across businesses within that neighborhood and within that community. So that is another aspect of our work. It's the work that we're doing, as I mentioned, in Antioch. And we're also doing similar work in West Oakland, specifically on 7th Street. So definitely, Rohan talked about Prescott Market, and West Oakland is, as we all know, just seeing a lot of activity. And we're working on that for 7th Street, where again, we're seeing similar needs across multiple businesses within that community, within that district, along the corridor there. So our task and our goal has been to create an ecosystem of resources specific to those needs, to the businesses within that community. So it might be legal support, it might be marketing support, it might be workforce development. Again, issues that they're all dealing with and addressing. And so how can we build the resources to support across the board within the neighborhood? And that's where you see real change. It serves as a
Mhm.
catalyst
Mhm.
for other activity, whether it be on that street or in a neighboring street. The work that business improvement districts and merchants associations do really act as a catalyst for change within not only that neighborhood, but neighboring communities as well. So
Mhm.
we see it as really an important part of our work, is providing the specific neighborhood needs and the ecosystem to support those, and the resources and the network to support those also. And then I'll just add this too, because we talked about the social capital. The other thing that that does is it allows a space for the businesses to work together and build
Mhm.
that camaraderie and that partnership amongst each other, and being able to lean on the community through the support that we're doing from the ecosystem support. So that's another important aspect of focusing on the neighborhood, is they build within and lean on within each other.
It's such a great point. And we all kind of do that in our work, but that's not the thing that we sort of sell,
Mm,
or that's not the thing that we can fabricate. It
mhm.
has to come from creating the right environment and context and trust so that it can happen. We have to enable it.
Right.
But that's really the differentiator.
Yeah. And trust
That's
being a key component of that.
absolutely, absolutely. Well, Erica, I'm looking at our time and I'm wondering if I should hand it to you, back over to you, if there are other questions.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much for keeping an eye on the time. And this has just been a really great conversation to be listening in on. Yeah, it's wonderful to just hear about all these interlocking parts in the ecosystem and how everyone is working together to create more impact and more resources and more transparency for the founders that we all work with. So yeah, we have a few minutes left for Q&A. We've already had a few questions pop into the chat. Feel free to drop more in the chat. Also, feel free to use the Q&A function if you want it to be, secret question. But I will start with a question from our board member, Will. So, we're talking about all these different ecosystem partners on our level, on the small business support level. Could you also share a bit about who the commercial banking partners that help make this work happen? Who are some of the people that we're working with?
I can start with that. Will, thank you for your question. Thank you for being here today. We work with all commercial bankers who serve small businesses. We have relationships with all of the big name brands and also community banks. Our goal really is to help companies get access to that commercial banking financing eventually, that it makes sense for their business. I mean, ultimately, I don't know about you, Collette and Rohan, but I think we will be successful if we are able to appeal to the private sector side of the banks that support us. And to do that, we have to be relevant to the commercial bankers, which means we have to get our companies ready for their products. And so I think about that a lot and think about working with commercial banks in that way. I don't know, Rohan, Collette, would you add to that?
I'll just note the one of the commercial banks that we work with, and I feel like they have a great community-centered approach, is US Bank. They're a big supporter of us and of our work. Chase Bank as well, just to name, there are a couple of names out there of those that we've worked with. But I think that what's important to us is as we're getting our clients ready to meet with the banks, the banks being ready to meet with the clients as well. And having that community-centered focus and approach so that it's not a hurdle for
Mhm.
our entrepreneurs and our clients as they're going to commercial banking institutions as well.
So you went ahead and you jumped in and you gave names. I wasn't going to name names, but I'll just add Wells Fargo and Community Bank of the Bay have been tremendous partners of ours as well, and including the ones that you mentioned, Colette.
Yeah.
How about you, Rohan?
Yeah, so we work with all of those too, and
City. Yeah.
number of others.
Yeah.
HSBC comes to mind, and
Hmm.
pretty active and things like that. I think there's a couple of areas that we work with the commercial banks on, and then I'll talk a little bit about what I think actually is one of the challenges that we collectively need to kind of figure out. So one area is capital, right? And support for our organizations. So loan capital, we rely on the banks to provide to us. And then also some grant capital to support our workers as well. And we're working closely with the CRA departments and the foundations at a number of different banks for that support. And then we work with the banks on referrals, right? So the businesses that they are meeting that are they're not able to provide credit to, they're referring on to us. So that's another area in which we work kind of closely together, and that's more at kind of the local level. Having worked at a large commercial bank for many years, and while I wasn't on the small business side, I have some appreciation for kind of the way the small business works there. I still think that there's a gap between what the CDFI community kind of provides, and where a bank and a company and business getting to the point of being bankable, right? And I think that's an area that we kind of collectively as an industry, us and the banks, need to kind of figure out the solution for, because there's a product/service gap there. Yes, there are examples of businesses kind of migrating, right? And we celebrate those, and I think they're absolutely fantastic. But that number needs to increase, right? And there's a whole bunch of reasons why the impediments to that and things like that. But I think that again, relatively new to this space, but that's where I want to spend some time, is figuring that out, because that really starts to lead to kind of true sustainable businesses for our communities. That's important.
I'm so glad you made that point, Rohan, because there still is a need for our organizations, right? And us continuing to do this work is critically important, because our economic fabric, our formal economic fabric, is not yet ready to absorb the needs of everybody across the country. And so, yay, us. I just want to mention one more thing that we do with banks also is a lot of bankers provide volunteer advising for ICA companies and help support companies in that way very, very directly with their time and expertise, which is really beneficial.
I'm going to lift up, I think, just one more question from the chat because we're running a little low on time. But I like this conversation that someone brought up, I can't see your name, but and maybe this is just something we could like ideate on a little bit as a group. But something that happens with small business support organizations is there can be a lot of, as they're saying, complementary technical services, complementary advisory services. And it can be kind of tricky for founders to navigate which organization they should go to. So what are some ways that we can like visibilize, which support system is best for which entrepreneur? And maybe I'll hand this to Collette first, since I know this is like very specifically in Alliance's wheelhouse.
Yeah, I mean, this is where Antioch, the city, their economic development team stepped up to address just that. Knowing their business community, knowing the needs, knowing the industries. We do a lot of specific work in the beauty and wellness industry in Antioch, but they've got, a broad range. They've got manufacturing, they've got obviously food and beverage and retail, so they know their business community. And so this is where they stepped up to fill in that gap to say, we need to help our entrepreneurs navigate this, and know what the supports are, regardless of the industry or specific to the industry, that are needed. And so I think that that is where other cities and counties might be able to provide that same type of service to their community, again, because they know the needs in their community. And it's job creation, it's sales tax creation. It obviously benefits not only the small business, but the community as a whole, to do that. So yeah, we're really happy to be working with them. And as I mentioned, it's been lifted up on a national level as a model for other communities to follow, of setting in place a single point of contact that is centralized, that knows the ecosystem, that knows the partners, that are able to refer out. And it really requires camaraderie and partnership amongst the partnerships as well. And that's the other component that we do, is bring everybody together to say, hey, what are you working on? What events do you have going on? And helping push that out. So we're promoting each other as well as a part of that. So it really is partnership in the true sense of the word, but it's seamless to the entrepreneur. And again, it centers the entrepreneur, which is what's needed as a part of that, for that to work.
That's great. Thank you for sharing that case study. I feel like, yeah, just more of that sort of thing. Allison or Rohan, did you have anything else to add to that thought?
I don't. I think it would be, Colette, great to learn a little bit more about that as well, and see if it can be replicated, because sounds great.
Yeah.
Yeah, most definitely.
And to me, the key thing there, Colette, is you're putting the business needs first, like the entrepreneur's needs first. And oftentimes, our landscape can get like create this false competition over grant dollars or investment dollars, that you're really taking this role of being neutral Switzerland, right? How can we make all the pieces and leverage all the pieces work better and more strongly together? And I think that's something that the three of our organizations and several other in the Bay Area share, is really putting the needs of the business first. And even if that means, referring a company away from our own organization. And that's a really important mindset to have.
Yeah, as I mentioned, it's the only way that it can work, right?
Yep.
It's the entrepreneur is at the core of the work and the focus of the work. And it's still, there's so much, there's enough need out there for everyone to stay very busy. So
Yeah, exactly. We can't do this alone.
right.
Well, I think that is a wonderful note to end on. We accomplished so much together, and it's really great to have this conversation to really hear about how all the different pieces fit together, and what else there is to do to keep working together and really putting entrepreneurs first in our communities. I just want to thank both of our panelists for joining, Collette and Rohan. Thanks for being part of this. And thanks everyone who tuned in. We'll be sending a follow-up email later today or tomorrow morning with a link to the impact report, a link to the recording of this. We would love if you would share ICA Fund's impact report. We really want to get this out in more networks, have people see this work and see why it's important. So thank you in advance for sharing, and thank you for tuning in. And yeah, this was really wonderful. Thanks everybody for being here.
Thank you, Erica. Great
Thank
job.
you.
Thanks, Rohan, Collette. See you soon.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Take care.